I've been in the cabinet industry for probably 13 years. I started out helping a friend of mine install cabinets for diversified cabinet distributors. And they were probably about the third largest distributor in the United States at that time. We're averaging more than 200 kitchens a week. That's quite a bit, and that's during the heyday of the building industry. When I left them, I was their senior field inspector for custom homes. And they decided, well, they couldn't afford me anymore, and they just said, we're cutting back. At that time, we're probably doing maybe 50 kitchens a week. It's not enough to keep an operation that size going very long. In that time, I went to work for Home Depot for a short while, and a friend of mine who has a cabinet shop in Duluth asked me to come and design cabinets for him. So I've been there about 4 or 5 years now. He went through a couple of different iterations of design software, and we settled on a product called Cabinet Visions, and it's a very high-end program. We have the basic program just for designing, producing a cut list for the shop, and able to give a three-dimensional look to the customer. We opted not to get the photorealistic module because it was almost as much as the program. The program was nearly $11,000. Photorealistic, they think a lot of their program. They also have several other modules, and the one that we were looking at for future was the screen to machine, as he kept thinking he would go to a CNC machine later on. That is not going to happen. The industry has gotten much worse. In the last few years, people that we've known in the industry have disappeared. Quite a few friends of his that had shops no longer have shops. In this industry, a lot of people lock themselves into the new homes. So when they stop building them, no cabinets. The shops just went down. My boss had the foresight to stay in the remodeling business. He had started out originally doing fireplace mantles, and it grew out of that. Because he kept his foot in the remodeling, he's been able to keep the doors open. Now the process in cabinets, we first either get a call from a builder, a contractor, or sometimes a walk-in homeowner who's heard about us from word of mouth, or a previous customer that just decided to buy a new house and he wanted us to do their cabinets again. Dealing with different aspects of the industry, as far as dealing with a builder, when I say a builder, they're the ones that build the house as well. Contractors, for the most part, are remodelers. And we'll get a call from several of those in a week's time. Some we will work with, some we won't. Mainly because it's very hard to get paid by some of these guys. And that's part of the problem. One of the things with builders, we've worked with several of them over the years, and they keep us in the loop as to what they have going. Quite a few of them now are in dire straits too. The industry has slowed down so much because of the amount of homes on the market that aren't selling. And I mean new homes that have just been sitting there 2, 3, and even 4 years haven't been sold. So there's no sense building a house. It was just going to sit there. So some of these big open areas you see throughout your counties and cities and towns, none of the builders will build unless somebody comes in, buys a lot, and pays to have the house built. And I know near me that is the case. And we have one subdivision right now that's being built, and it's being built on a per house basis. And I don't think that subdivision is going to be built out for probably about 20 or more years at the rate it's being built right now. It probably has lots in there for about 300 to 350 homes. So far, I think 5 of them have been built so far. And that's in the last 3 years. So it's going to take quite a while for that to be built out. Contractors, typically a remodeler. They go in, do all the pre-work, usually tearing out the cabinets, whether it's kitchen, bathrooms, family rooms, entertainment centers. They do all the extra work, and we just come in and do the cabinets. There are times when we actually go in and do the entire tear out and reinstall. Okay.
Y'all do all your own installation?
Yes, we do. We have a team that actually does the installation for us. Actually, the guy who actually does the installation for us was our shop manager. He's very good at what he does.
Jim, I put the glare
Okay. One of the things you first have to do is understand what a customer wants. What kind of cabinets he wants, the kind of grade cabinet he wants, whether he wants paint grade, if he wants stain grade. Homeowners typically do not know the difference between a frameless and a frame cabinet. When we usually explain the difference, we prefer to do frameless cabinets because of the extra space you actually get for storage. One of the things in the industry today is these roll-out trays and roll-out shelves. In a frame cabinet, you lose a lot of space when you're using that type of shelf or roll-out tray. In a frameless, you lose very little. Anyone any questions about that, or why?
Is the frameless like a built-in where you're not using you just use the existing walls or something?
No, frameless, you're actually building a frameless box. You don't have a face frame on it. Face frames are typically 1.5 to 2 inches. And you're losing about 1.25 inches storage space. Because you've got your face frame there. Anything you have to put in there, if you want, you have to shove it over to the side, so you're going to move things out of the way to get it back out. With your doors on, it makes it even harder because you get your hinge in the way as well. Frameless, you don't have that problem. You still have the hinge, but it takes up much less room. On the other side, everything slides out. It gives you more room for a slide-out tray or a slide-out shelf.
A lot of these, the European hinges.
Right, the European hinge.
Yeah.
They take up much less room, but just the slide-out trays and shelves have more room, so you have more space to work with. If you have a frame in the way, well, that shelf has to clear not only the frame, but the door hinges as well. So you lose a lot of storage space. There are a lot of different accessories you can get for your cabinets. You know, your Lazy Susan. Like I said, you pull out trays, your trash pull-outs, pull-down tray for the front of your sinks, spice racks that slide out. They became very popular a couple of years ago on some of the hoods that we used to build that had the columns coming straight down either side of your cooking range. Both sides would slide out and have all your spices arranged right there for you. We have to find out from a customer what their budget is, what they're looking to spend, then decide the kind of materials that they can afford. And typically most of our cabinets are either paint grade, which we just use poplar for, and standard, birch plywood for it. Our cases are 3/4 inch. In the industry, we're kind of unusual because we do 3/4 inch casing. Most of your cabinets you buy in Lowe's or Home Depot are 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch particle board. I hate particle board for cabinets. Especially down here with the humidity. If you have a plumbing accident, it all soaks into your particle board and you have it all break up. And you have to replace it. Plywood's a little more forgiving. Can hold up a lot better than particle board. It's a lot more, there's a lot more strength to it. Excuse me. Going over the extras with the customer is a secondary step. We normally talk them through the entire cabinet process, where they will have all their cabinets laid out from the kitchen to whatever other room they're looking to do. Sometimes we'll get a homeowner that wants to redo their entire home. They can't sell their house, so they're going to stay in it. So they want to make everything as new as possible within a certain budget. And that's what we'll do.
When you're dealing with a remodeler, does he bring in the end user, the homeowner, to you, or you?
Oh yeah, we have to work directly with the homeowner as well as the remodeler, because we have to know what the homeowner wants in his cabinets. You can have flat panel doors, ray panel doors, slabs. You can get as elaborate as you want. And we want to know what the customer actually wants and what he needs. I know from past experience with DCD, they would sell a customer stuff that they never use and wind up going over budget, but they got them locked in. Anything we do, we always confer with the customer to make sure that this is what they want in those cabinets, so we don't make a mistake, because it could be very costly.
How much engineering and design you do before you get the guy to commit?
Typically, when we go in and talk with a customer, we'll get a measurement. We actually do the measurement. We don't take the measurement from the contractor or builder, and we certainly won't take it from the homeowner. They have good intentions, but they don't understand how everything gets laid out. You have to know where your pipes are, you have to know where your outlets are, your gas supply. All those things factor in how you're going to build a cabinet in that area. Lost my train of thought now. What was your question again?
Basically, how much free engineering do you give away before you get a commitment?
We actually give away too much. We actually, my boss will go out, he'll do the measurement, and we'll do a preliminary drawing. Sometimes the customer will actually give us a hand sketching of what they're basically looking for. We'll take that and expound on it, and I'll go through and design it on the program. I will do a detailed drawing of it, give them the elevations and a 3D of it. And from that point on, if they commit to it, then the engineering is done. Any changes, we give them at least 2 changes before we actually charge them anything else.
But you don't charge that initial design work?
Most of the time, no. It's usually built into the cost of the cabinets. We have had customers just go nuts. I mean, they change here, change there, to the point where we finally have to sit down and say to them, listen, we've done these changes, this is the cost of all the changes you've done. Any more changes, we've got to charge you. They're not happy about it, but some of them will understand, well, yeah, I have to get paid too. But some people just say, well, it should be part of the whole package. Well, it isn't. There's a lot of time involved in doing the drawings. I'm sure some of you people who've done CAD know what that's like. And if you get into real details with these cabinets, it takes a lot of time. Some of these details don't fit like you think they're supposed to fit. You kind of fudge them a little bit to make sure they look the way the customer wants it to look, and then we can work on it when we get in the shop.
What kind of quote buy ratio do you expect?
Actually, we have probably about a 50% or better.
That's excellent.
Right now, we're very slow, but it's still, and we're taking jobs right now that we normally wouldn't because they are small, but just to keep things going right now, we're having to, because it's just as much work in a small job as it is in a big job. Just more cabinets, that's all. Okay.
Could you comment about what you found regarding what is known as Chinese plywood and stuff that's been shipped over? I've heard that, I mean, it looks good, but I've heard that there were so many cavities in there and the plywood, and what's your experience with foreign type plywood as opposed to American stuff?
As far as that's concerned, we have had quite a bit of experience with overseas plywood. And unfortunately, a lot of it comes from China, but to keep costs down for the customer, if we buy the, oak ply and cherry ply from an American distributor, then it's 2 and 3 times the cost. And we have found that certain companies that sell the Chinese or overseas brands don't inspect them very well, and there are a lot of voids. We have found several that by a higher quality is on the similar as the American plywood, but the cost is much less, and we've been really happy with it. Lately, with the industry the way it is right now, we're not seeing as much overseas plywood because the local distributors aren't carrying as much, because the cost of that plywood has gone up quite a bit, as a lot of products from overseas have gone up over the last couple of years, and putting it on par with our own materials. But we found that some of the
Cheap plywood is cheap plywood.
yeah,
And good plywood, even if it comes from Bongo, is pretty good.
But not as good as it used to be.
You get
No.
what you pay for sure.
yeah, oh definitely.
Okay.
We try and be very careful what we buy. If we buy a plywood and we find a lot of voids, it goes back to the distributor. We won't use it. And we've had that problem a couple of times with a major distributor here. And he's just turned around and given us a better grade plywood to keep us happy. But
to answer your question, Rob and I just had a recent experience with a lot of plywood that we bought. There weren't any voids in it to say, but there were overlaps, significant overlaps, and lack of glue.
Nails,
Yeah, they actually had nails in there for filler.
like they were tearing apart old recycling pallets or something. And a lot of it delaminated.
And the distributor offered nothing.
Where were you buying it at?
I'd rather not say.
Well, I mean, it wasn't Home Depot or Lowe's or anything.
No.
Be good to save us.
What ply was it? What's our initial?
We went to Swanee to buy the balance of the plywood, and their stuff was excellent.
yes,
I do a little bit of maintenance work at a company that builds pipe holders down in Lithonia. My son works there. They build their wind chest out of plywood or plywood and poplar. And they're routing and drilling air passages. And if there's a void, you fill it with epoxy, which is very labor intensive. And they still, the best stuff you can buy to my knowledge is dye board. It comes small and it's really expensive. But what they've done is to get fairly flat plywood with reasonable dimension, because that stuff ain't the same thickness if you start making it. But they're using marine grades, which puts you into the African mahoganies. And most of that, if it's British 1088 is the standard, I think. If it's built to standards, it's going to be pretty well void free. But you're talking another step up in cost for that.
Lately, some of the plywood we've been buying, normally you'd see very thin layers in your plywood. What we've been getting lately is a thicker layer plywood, and I kind of like it. It's actually been very nice to work with.
Was it fewer wise?
Yeah, it's fewer layers, but they're thicker layers.
Right.
I mean, it's still 3/4 inch, but it's much nicer to work with. You got more to work with as far as strength, as far as I'm concerned.
What's your typical plywood shipment size for a shop your size?
Well, we buy per job. We don't inventory a lot of this stuff. When we get a deposit, it's immediately used right there. We put the order in for the materials. It comes in. At that point, the deposit's non-refundable because we do it on a per job basis. Yeah, we may have 1 or 2 things left over at the end of the job, but typically what we buy is what actually gets built out of that material. And we don't have a lot of material left over in the shop, so it keeps our overhead down. And we've had to actually downsize the shop. We used to have 2 big areas, now we're down to 1, just to keep our costs down. And had to get rid of machines we don't even use anymore. We're farming out our door processing to places that do that. They can do it much more cost effectively. Especially the doors that have radiuses in them. We couldn't do them anyway, so we'd have to farm that out. But we will do a 5-piece raised panel or a 5-piece flat panel door. Those are easy enough to do. We will still do those. But as far as mitered doors, we've got rid of our double miter saws. There's no sense doing it. Typically, 1 in every 15 or so jobs is a mitered door job. So why keep it? It's not worth it. So it's easier just to farm that out. Paint grade cabinets, we typically do poplar. It's inexpensive wood as far as cabinets are concerned, but it's very good to work with. Typically, the backs of the cabinets are all plywood, 1/4 inch plywood. A lot of companies like DCD, the manufacturers that make the cabinets for them, use like a masonite board, 1/4 inch. Don't really like it. I'd rather the plywood. And this way, with the plywood, we can stain it as well as paint it. Doors on a paint grade, if they just want like a slab or a slab door with a routed raised panel in it, we'll use MDF. What we use is what they call door quality MDF. And the reason why we do that is because when you route MDF, it leaves like a fur on the routed edge, surface I should say. With the door grade, it doesn't have that. So it's very minor sanding in that routed profile. And makes for less time on that door. And most customers like that. They really like having that routed raised panel.
If you're going to paint them, why not?
Yeah, and it's more cost effective.
You guys use a CNC router for that?
No.
No?
Are you using a time saver or something like that to sand, or?
No. This is all hand sanded.
What's the time?
It doesn't.
It's like it looks sort of like a drum sander, but it has sort of spinning flaps.
Yeah.
Paper,
Oh, yeah.
so you can put any shape into it.
We had one pass-through sander we used for the molding. We've actually had to get rid of that because we didn't have the room going down size. We used to do a lot of molding for other builders, a lot of trim for them. But that's all dropped off quite a bit, so there's no sense having that. So what we do now is just basically the cabinets. A lot of the trim that we can make for our cabinets, we make strictly for our own cabinets. Anything we have to buy, we have a couple of suppliers in the area. Yeah, Pierce down the street from us, that's a big supplier of different moldings and trims and whatnot. And they're fairly reasonable.
You run your trim on shapers?
Yep. We use a Williams and Hussey molder. We have 2 of those. And what we paid for them, those things have more than paid for themselves 1,000 times over. And we're real happy that we bought them, and they weren't that expensive. And
about $3 grand with all the goodies, drives on both sides.
Not even that. We've got 2 of them. We don't have the drives on both ends. We just have it over the cutter itself. But they paid for themselves within weeks of using them because of the work we were doing at that time. But even now, it still saves us a lot of money on just basic trim for our cabinets.
Nice looking one closed at that Hudson auction last night at $11.75.
Well, don't have any use for it right now. Not me personally. No, not that busy.
Where do you get your door glaze? No, you don't go to Home Depot and buy it.
No, we get it from different sources. Dixie Ply will carry it 1 week, and then maybe Georgia Hardwood will carry it another week. We typically use like a 1/2 inch for some of our panels, but then we'll use 3/4 inch for the actual doors themselves and the drawer fronts. Anytime we do a 5-piece door, we'll use poplar and the plywood insert for the flat panel, and maybe MDF for the raised panel. You cut the cost down for the customer. Now, door quality MDF is a little more expensive than regular MDF, but in times of saving in the sanding and just the quality of the product, it's much more worth it to us to do that. Okay.
One last question. How do you join the side of the cabinet to the back of the cabinet?
How do you
join them? How do you attach the back to the side? Use plywood in the back and poplar on the side.
We use plywood, nailers top and bottom. We use a solid plywood bottom. If we're standard toe in it, then it's going to be a notch in the 2 sides. You'll have a front toe, a 3/4 inch ply, and you'll. Excuse me. You asked the wrong question.
I think what he was fishing for there is, do you rabbit the sides to receive the back?
The rabbit, we do rabbit once. If it's going to be unfinished on both sides, we'll rabbit the back for the actual back of the cabinet, but the actual nailers are inside that rabbit. It actually adds to the strength. We have 2, usually stretches front and back on top.
But I figured it had to be pretty strong, right?
Like I said, it's 3/4 inch on everything, with the exception of the actual back is a 1/4 inch ply. And because it is plywood, I just feel it's a lot better than that masonite board. And we haven't had any problems. We've had good luck with this cabinet. Having experienced the cabinets from DCD, it's sometimes scary when you actually go out, and I was an inspector, I go out and inspect what the installers did. And it was scary to me to see how these guys would install cabinets without hitting a stud. How they got them to stay up on the wall without hitting a stud was amazing. Not that they would stay up there. I can remember going out to a house at about 6 o'clock at night because a customer called up in absolute panic. He said, my cabinets are coming off the wall. And I said, okay, where are you? And this was out in the Hamilton Mill area. It was at a subdivision we had done a lot of work in. We're still doing a lot of work in. And when I got there, the wall cabinets all the way down one wall and over the stove were like this far away from, and I'm saying, how in the world am I going to get this all back? And not only was it pulled away from the wall, it had separated the cabinets, the sides and the back.
Still have dishes in them?
No, the customer had, when he saw it happen, he just pulled everything out. And what it turned out is that the installer didn't hit any of the studs in one whole area. So as one whole line started coming off, it started pulling the other ones.
Yeah, sure.
And not only the ones that did hit the studs, it ripped the back off the cabinet. Another inspector and I uninstalled all the cabinets, took all the trim down, and actually rebuilt the cabinets on site for the customer. And the customer just sat there and watched us, and he just marveled at the fact that we could get it all back together and looking brand new. And reinstalled them. I left there about 2:30 in the morning. But we made sure we hit every stud.
And the customer was happy.
The customer was very happy. He sent a nice letter to my boss thanking us for coming out. The company actually did compensate him for his inconvenience. I still don't know what they compensated him with, but my boss said they will compensate him, and I had seen the customer and they said they did compensate me, and he wouldn't tell me what they did for him, so.
They probably got it from the installers.
Well, unfortunately, when I went to work for DCD, they were family owned, and they grew that company into the 3rd largest distributor in the country. McGrath, which is a major cabinet builder, manufacturer, purchased them. McGrath is owned by Masco, which is a big conglomerate, and they have several cabinet companies as well as other diversified companies as well. The quality of installation went down. They were just interested in getting out as many installations as possible and not having the installers really being taken the task for, shoddy work. So it fell to us inspectors to make it work. And it got very tiring. I was averaging upwards of 80 or more hours a week. And I'm supposed to be on the custom side, and I was fixing the homes as well. And I was traveling anywhere from 1,200 to almost 2,500 miles in a week, going from one end of the state to the other, up and down the highway. I got to know the highways real well.
Question.
Yes.
You were talking about coming off the wall. If you put plates on every shelf, you got a lot more weight than, say, you put glasses and stuff like that. Is there some design criteria for what, well, you don't weigh your plates and all that, but what it will hold? And I keep telling my wife, I say, man, that's a lot of weight up there.
No, there really isn't.
The backing board, like horizontal backing boards, like one at the top and one at the bottom, so that you can hit all the studs, and then
Those are the nailers.
okay.
Those are the nailers. On the cabinets from DCD, those nailers are just pieces of particle board that have a vinyl covering over them.
Okay.
Most of those cabinets have a vinyl inside, vinyl skin over the particle board on the inside, typically a light tan color, and the shelves are all the same way, and then they'll have simulated cherry or whatever on the outside in that same vinyl. But it's all particle board. When you screw that particle board into a stud, you're actually crushing some of that particle board. The way they're constructed, I still feel it lends themselves to separating. And I saw a lot of cabinets that did that, and I had to modify the cabinets to get them to pull back together, because the company was not going to, pay to have them taken down and put new ones back up. And those are face frame cabinets, and you would think they'd be a lot better. But they don't use pocket holes. They're basically using staples in the face frame into the particle board. That's all it is. Basically like a big, heavy-duty staple in that joint. Yeah, they do put glue in it, but still, that's all that holds that face frame on.
Hey, Jim, you may want to mention something about the hanger screws.
The anchor screws?
The hanger screws.
Oh, the hanger screws? Well, the screws we use are typically 3-inch long cabinet screws, and they have a built-in washer. Being as that we use plywood for our nailers and for the whole casing, that helps quite a bit as far as holding it up there.
Does the nailer go behind the back or in front?
It's in front.
You can see it in the cabinet.
Yeah. We will put an edge on the plywood, so that, because if you built a cabinet out of solid wood, you couldn't afford it. It'd be so overpriced, it'd be ridiculous. So you have to have the plywood. On a face frame, yeah, you're going to have solid wood.
For the face.
For the face frame. But like I said, typically our cabinets are European style, frameless, and they've worked out well for us. We do frame cabinets, and it's typically for our oven cabinets or cabinets that really need to have.
Rip the window out and replace it.
That's not our decision. The wife wanted that window to stay. This was a remodel.
Was this designed around that fireplace?
Yes. That fireplace, this is all redesigned. This house was all remodeled. This whole kitchen, great room, and off the great room is the butler's pantry.
What's the wood and finish on that, Jim?
That's a cherry.
Okay. With a darker stain over it?
Yes. This is the kitchen. That's the window. And it gave me fits.
Whole wall, look at that.
And that's how high, 32?
That's 32.
What's that seat made out of? Soapstone?
I think that's soapstone, but I'm not sure. I can't remember.
And the faucets on the back wall?
Yeah.
On the back wall, rather than sticker on the back wall.
You see how tall the cabinets are? They're actually taller than 40 and a half.
Now, would that be frameless or frame?
That is frameless right there. We do have some frame cabinets there, and that's for the oven. You see the stove, it has a faucet over the stove.
Pot cover.
So they can fill their pots right there instead of having to go back and forth to the sink. Okay.
You've got a brown on the underside of the cabinet.
I'm sorry?
You've got a brown on the underside of those upper cabinets.
A brow?
Yeah, an eyebrow type of thing. Shield.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I'm looking at the underside of the upper cabinets.
Oh, it's like an apron that brings it out a little bit.
Okay.
For the, you mean for the crown to go on?
Well, I'm looking at just below the doors, there appears to be a space there.
Well, that's a light rail.
Okay.
That hides the lights underneath the cabinet,
Okay.
which they had, you know, under every cabinet there are lights.
What's the standard height from the top of the bottom cabinets to from the top of the bottom cabinets to the bottom of the top cabinets?
Typically, your wall cabinets start at 54.5, but if you're going to do a light rail, it's 55.5
Now, up in the floor,
from the floor.
35 and roughly 30, you said 34 and a half and
Well,
55, and that's
these were 32s, the cabinet height, and then another 1.25 inches, so 33 and a quarter, and then it's usually 54.5 from there.
Building height in this room.
Oh, I can't remember offhand. It's
yeah, 19 or 20 roughly.
it's either 9 or 10 foot, I can't remember. That is the oven cabinet. Has an oven, microwave, and warming drawer in it. And storage above it.
With the built-in ladder.
And they
Library ladder.
well, this is the funny part. The wife was not very tall, and she did have one of those little step ladders that she had along the side of that cabinet that my boss moved out of the way while he took pictures. Okay. That's one of those Sub-Zero. We actually built those panels for the front of the
Refrigerator.
on the refrigerator and above it.
Freezer on the bottom.
Yeah. A lot of these high-end refrigerators that can take panels have a specification for them that we can go with, so we can easily build these panels. Take a while, but still, they look nice. Pardon me?
MDF for the panel?
No. Those were actual wood panels. Couldn't do MDF on something like that. Because of, you know, it's a refrigerator, it would build up moisture behind it from the humidity.
What kind of wood?
I'm sorry?
What kind of wood are you using?
Since it's paint grade, we're using poplar. All these little alcoves over the cabinets all had lights, every one of them. That's a desk area off to the left of the refrigerator.
Be close enough to turn around from the desk to get a beer out of the refrigerator?
Yep, definitely.
Now, those are kind of lift up.
Yep. They want to lift up doors, so we gave them the lift up doors.
Look at the guns. Wow.
They wanted a scroll toe, so we gave them a scroll toe.
You always got a dust under those things.
What's the room size of this kitchen, Jim?
It's not as big as it seems.
That's why.
It looks bigger in the pictures because of the amount of pictures he took, but it isn't really that big. I'd have to go back to the overhead to.
Just take a guess. 16 feet, something like that.
I think it's about 16 feet across this way and about another 6 or 7 down the other side. And then you had a big island in the middle. As you can see, the island in the middle.
Does the cabinet for the farm sink require special construction or reinforcing?
Yes.
Size or
Yes. The weight.
Is that included with the information that comes with the sink, or is that standard?
It's not, well, I guess you can call it an industry standard. We kind of know what we have to build for it to support it.
Is there something special you have to do to the face of it where the front of the sink laps down?
Other than support, no. The hardest part is getting it to look right on the front because of the fact that most of these sinks come down, they curve in. We have to have that sink in-house when we build the cabinet to make sure what we build fits that cabinet.
You have to
fits that sink rather.
to that curve.
so it looks right. Otherwise, it'll look really weird.
What are those two middle drawers? Are those big pot drawers or something? They're very big.
I'm not sure what they're using for, but yeah, they probably would be used for the pots, yes.
This is called a frameless, right? The one you were just showing, there was no frame on it, is that correct?
Yes, those are just...
What actually supports the sliders for the drawers?
The sliders?
No, the drawers.
They're mounted to the side of the wall. You have a... In between...
You have a 3/4 inch plywood in between, right?
Actually, we have double.
Double?
We double the partitions in between drawers and doors.
Okay.
Those end pieces are basically wide fillers to be able to put that design on it and attach to the sides. This is the island. This is what I was talking about, the long filler with the panels. That's why you can do a frameless and still look like it's framed, but it's not. This is the butler's pantry off that great room with a little refrigerator, beverage refrigerator, whatever you want to call it.
So you install the glass and stuff?
Usually not, no.
Okay.
We prefer not to install glass. The builder actually arranges for that to be done, or he does it himself. This is a...
that's what you gave me.
This is a house up on the lake. I forget which one. I think it was Hartwell or Lanier. I can't remember which one. This is all paint grade. MDF beaded panels that we made. The columns. This is just the island. This was a lot of back and forth with the customer. And the lady was very nice. We had done their home originally, and they wanted us to do their house up on the lake. So she had specific ideas, and we were able to work with her very easily to get it handled. This is another remodel job. This is the butler's pantry for it. This is the dining room, and they wanted a corner cabinet. And this is not too long after I got this program and trying to learn how this program did a corner cabinet and designing it. And a couple of times making changes, it turned into pickup sticks, literally. Pieces of the cabinet just blew apart on the screen. I just had to start all over again until I figured out how it's supposed to work.
And then you go around all this, we've got molding down here.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, they put the molding in afterwards, which was nice. If you back out a little bit. This is the actual dining room with that cabinet off in the corner. Okay. This is one of the islands for the kitchen. There's actually 2 islands in this kitchen. This is like their little breakfast island where they can sit at and have breakfast. It has functional drawers on either side and working cabinets on the back.
No toe kick?
No.
What do you use for the columns, like to make all the columns?
The columns we actually purchase.
Okay.
There's no sense making them ourselves or trying to. We could, but it's not cost effective. This is a pantry that was already there. We just made a door for them. Remember that house I told you about, the wider
8-inch wide molding?
Yeah, this is that house. A lot of these cabinets had to change because of that.
Top molding, you mean? Is that-
No, the door frame molding, window molding, the actual baseboard, it all changed from what they had given us as a list for trim and whatnot. It was not the same size, so the cabinets would not fit in there properly. This is the other island. It has a beverage cooler in it. And this is the long shot looking down over both the islands.
Is that kitchen open to a great room? A great room behind it?
Yes. If you look closer, you can see how, because of what they did, everything shifted a little bit to the right. The hood is not actually centered where it's supposed to be. So everything shifted, even the granite backing, everything had to shift over by about 2 inches because they couldn't change it enough. And they didn't want to spend as much money as they were going to have us rebuild those particular cabinets. So they went with this. That's the front of the smaller island. It's got the radius front and the columns on it.
Is that just separate boards?
I'm sorry?
Is that just separate boards on
Yep.
versus any MDF or without?
Right, those are just separate boards. We actually mited them to go in that radius.
I understand this is a showpiece, not a working kitchen in my view. But without toe kicks, aren't those islands very awkward to work at?
This island's not a work island, okay?
Okay, it's...
This is like a breakfast island they sit at. That has a pretty good overhang on it.
Oh, okay.
The other island is the working island. Still, it does not have a toe kick.
Does that
It just-
make it awkward?
But it has a big...
No, because the overhang is enough.
It's also got the...
It just has a vegetable sink in it. It's not the actual sink. Okay, just a little vegetable sink for entertaining. Okay. This is just a corner cabinet in a house where we actually did the study and a few other rooms for this gentleman.
On that angle, I bet that was a challenge.
Oh yeah.
Counter seems like it's... Because the picture is funky.
You know, like a truncated pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely was interesting to build it.
That's one of those ones that you need to have good measurements.
Oh, we did. This was a new house.
But still...
This particular house
Go make templates on those.
has a garage. It has a 5-car garage and an apartment over it. The homeowner lived in the apartment while they were building his house. So the garage and apartment was built first. This is one of the studies in his house. He actually has 2. And this is the picture of this one here. It's kind of a hexagon-shaped room. We did all the beams in the ceiling, all the panels on the wall, all the trim. He had a spiral staircase going to his 2nd floor where his office is. This is his study. Upstairs is the office that, unfortunately, my boss didn't take pictures of it, and that has a desk that I designed in cherry. Come out really nice. I'm real pleased with that one. Sorry if I'm going over, guys.
You got a few of us left. Seem to use a lot of those columns in a lot of your designs.
Well, that's pretty much, you know, customer wanted that. They've seen them. I'm sure you remember me mentioning Dennis Taylor. This is his home. This is the mantle we designed for him for his TV. I also did his master bathroom. He is very tall. So his side of the master bathroom, the vanities are much taller than the side for his wife, who's normal size. This is the butler's pantry just off the kitchen for Dennis. And this is in the kitchen itself. It's one wall that faces into the kitchen itself. This is the cooking area, the hood over the cooking area. Just over the corbels themselves slide out in spice racks, and then the two corbels actually slide out as well. He has one of those big Vulcan stoves as well. He likes to cook. This is part of the island.
What is that on the side?
On the side, that's cell phone charger plugged into the outlet.
That girl that we saw, like in London for one?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll stop it here so people can, yes.